Outside of this one church town, there's a gold dirt road to a whole lot of nothing. Got a deed to the land, but it ain't my ground. This is God's country. We pray for rain and thank Him when it's falling, 'cause it brings a grain and a little bit of money. We put it back in a plate, I guess that's why they call it God's country. I saw the light in a sunrise, sitting back in a 40 on the muddy riverside, getting baptized in holy water and shine with the dogs running. Saved by the sound of a pin-found Dixie whistle in the wind, that'll get you heaven bound. The devil went down to Georgia, but he didn't stick around. This is God's country. We turn the dirt and work until the week's done. We take a break and break bread on Sunday, then do it all again, 'cause we're proud to be from God's country. I saw the light in a sunrise, sitting back in a 40 on the muddy riverside, getting baptized in holy water and shine with the dogs running. Saved by the sound of a pin-found Dixie whistle in the wind, that'll get you heaven bound. The devil went down to Georgia, but he didn't stick around. This is God's country. God's country. I don't care what my headstone reads or what kind of pine wood box I end up in. When it's my time, lay me 6 feet deep in God's country. I saw the light in a sunrise, sitting back in a 40 on the muddy riverside, getting baptized in holy water and shine with the dogs running. Saved by the sound of a pin-found Dixie whistle in the wind, that'll get you heaven bound. The devil went down to Georgia, but he didn't stick around. This is God's country. Yeah, I saw the light in a sunrise, sitting back in a 40 on the muddy riverside, getting baptized in holy water and shine with the dogs running. Saved by the sound of a pin-found Dixie whistle in the wind, that'll get you heaven bound. The devil went down to Georgia, but he didn't stick around. This is God's country.
Man, Alex, that song reminds me so much of you, man. God's country. You know, that's that song that when you hear it and you're at that weight bench and you're lifting, and all of a sudden you're struggling, you're coming up with the bar, and when you hear that song, that energy comes, boom, it comes right up. You know?
Amen to that. I love that song.
Oh yeah, me too, man. It fires me up. Hey, man, we got the legend with us, man. Benny, the legend, Benny Cruz, with us. Hey, Benny, thank you very much for making that song for us and putting that together for us. Much appreciated, brother.
It was awesome.
Hey, guys, well, listen, before we get started, we got so much to talk about, Alex. We're excited that you're with us. This is the second time, and I know it's definitely not going to be the last time, but let's give everybody a welcome. We got Big Doug Collier, just flew in, I believe, the day before yesterday. He's going to be with us once again, and he's actually going to be telling us about his trip, the amazing churches, the spiritual experiences that he had all over Europe. We can't wait, Doug. You'll be with us on Wednesday, April the 23rd. So we'll take you the next 2 weeks off. We got also our brother, man, watching us all the way from Thailand. Brother, our prayers are still with you during that earthquake. Din DeJanis, the legend. And we got Ceci Escano. She's been with us from the very beginning. Yesterday, you told us you were with us a million times. And today, buenas tardes. Good evening. Thank you, sister. We have another big VJ Juarez. These people have been with us from the beginning. This is about a year and a half ago, close to 2 years, Alex. That's why we honor them, and we're very grateful that they're with us every episode. They always come up. Big VJ Juarez, blessings to all, watching us from Long Beach. I believe he's working. And we got Mike Bristol. Awesome, as usual, Benny. Right on. We're right on, Mike. Great questions last night, by the way. We're bringing Richard back to answer that one good question that you had on who was that guy that he arrested that was probably one of the worst. We wrote it down, so next time he comes. We got Bob Lopez. Happy birthday, Bob. We wished you a happy birthday last week. Thank God we didn't sing because we would have been kicked out of YouTube, but we toasted a happy birthday, Bob Lopez. And this guy right here, Gordo Gordito, Raymond, he, Alex, did 25 years with the Chicago Police Department. He retired 2 weeks ago, and I'm trying to get him on the show, but he's a little shy. But you know what? Hopefully, maybe he could take a tequila shot with us before the show so he could come on. But Gordo Gordito, we would love to hear, brother, your stories about Chicago PD. We've never had anybody as a cop from Chicago. You would be the first. Please honor us with coming on the show. With that said, and te acompaño, Alex and Benny, to Gordo Gordito. Thank you very much for your service, brother. Salud.
Congratulations on your retirement.
Supporting a mi gente. Ahora sí en español.
David, can you imagine the stories, man, like up in Chicago?
Exactly. I would love to hear his stories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's gonna make us look like Boy Scouts.
Well, but probably. But you know, one of the things about him, Alex, that we always talking about having purpose. His purpose. He's a born again Christian. He loves the Lord, but he also during these 25 years has been training young kids in the barrios, in the neighborhoods there in Chicago, how to box. And at the boxing gym, he gives them Bible studies. And he's thinking, well, he's going to be moving to Texas. So right now he's looking for a church. He's looking for a gym where he wants to continue that ministry now that he's retired to teach boxing and teach the word of God to the kids in the lower income neighborhoods. Is that beautiful or what?
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Can you imagine, David? I mean, we do foot patrols, and it's sunny California, nice weather. Even at night, it might get a little chilly. But can you imagine doing a foot patrol in Chicago in the ice?
Dude, I can't imagine it. I'm a California native, man. You know what I mean? Can you imagine it?
It's freezing cold and it's snowing and forget that. Oh.
Yeah. Hey, brother, you know what? This will be the last one because we want to get on the show. But Chris Kilby texted me earlier. He goes, Dave, for whatever reason, is not allowing me in, but thank God you got in. San Diego PD gang detective and robbery investigator legend, Chris Kilby. Like always, brother, we love you. Thank you. He's been with us from the beginning. But guys, before we get started, let's talk about what are we drinking. And you know what? I'm going to start it off tonight because I got a bottle of Casa Noble tequila because I know you were going to be drinking tequila tonight, Alex. So I wanted to I know you've had Casa Noble. It's a very good tequila. And I have that knowing that you were going to have tequila. With that said, Benny, I know you have something special. Tell us about it and not where you got it, but what it tastes like.
David, is that from Costco?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. It's from Costco. Benny always, because I always talk everything I buy at Costco. I'm that guy. I go to Costco twice a week. My wife needs eggs. I'll be right back. I'm going to go to Costco. And it's $100 bill bill every time I go. You know? Yeah.
Well, tonight I'm drinking moonshine and the real stuff from Tennessee, homemade in the garage or the basement, and I got it. I mean, it's 100%. This is not like the California moonshine. I tasted some of the legal California moonshine. This is nothing compared to California. This is very sweet, very strong. They mix it so when I get my jar, I get the jar and it has cinnamon sticks and it has apples in it. So it gives you that flavor. I mean, it sits in my cabinet for months and months. I mean, I still got some from a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, and that thing is dark. And when you break that apple, that piece of apple, you chop it in half, it just comes out juicy. I mean, there's so much moonshine in it. I mean, it's got a good flavor. I mean, you got to drink a little bit because it's one of those that tastes so sweet and so good. I mean, I remember the first time I drank one. It was a mason jar about that big and it was full. And I drank it like nothing. I'm sitting down drinking it like nothing. And when it was time to get up, man, I almost fell.
Hey,
I mean,
Benny, you were on the show when you drank that.
Yeah, one time I was.
Remember you were?
Yeah. This is
yeah.
Even this much right here.
Yeah.
It's pretty strong. It's good stuff.
Tinted Piggy, thank you, brother, for watching once again, man. Hey, Alex, so what are you drinking tonight?
Emerald Spirit Tequila. Fantastic tequila. I got this bottle the last time I came on, and I bought it since. So it's fantastic. I ordered it. It's great tequila. Nice.
Tell us about who makes it. You last time we talked about it.
This is designed by Navy SEALs, and the proceeds go to the Navy SEAL Foundation and their families. And it's 100% agave, made by a well-known, I don't remember his name, but by a well-known tequila maker in tequila. And it is fantastic, nice and smooth. I'm a Don Julio 70 guy, and I've transitioned over to this. It is high quality. Plus, I get to support my Navy SEAL brothers.
How much does a bottle like that cost?
I think it was about $50 when I got it. Yeah,
that's not bad. Yeah, it's not that bad.
It's reasonable for a quality tequila.
Yeah.
Are you serious? I thought it was over $100, like $150, $100.
Yeah. Very good tequila. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, I'm not going to get it until I see it at Costco. So please reach out to me and tell me, put it in Costco.
I will call Kirkland after this, and I'll let them know.
Yeah, that or put the label Kirkland label on it.
You know where David got his tattoos, Alex, right?
Costco.
At Costco.
Costco. I remember it, but they only had them for a limited time. So
exactly. And it was a blue light special. No, that was Kmart.
That was Kmart.
Kmart. Yeah.
There's probably guys watching us right now going, "What the heck is Kmart?" Because they don't know the blue light special.
Yeah.
You know. That's funny, man. Hey, guys, but listen, let's get started. We have a couple of great questions. Alex, first of all, thank you very much. We're extremely grateful that you're a very busy person. I mean, you're teaching nationwide, literally going to different gang conferences, narcotics conferences, businesses, teaching on Mexican cartels. You're a recognized expert. And I mean, you made time for us. We're very grateful. And guys, I'm going to just read briefly a little bit of your resume. The only reason why is because right now we have different podcasts that we're on Apple. We're on like 10 different podcasts that can't see us, but they could hear us.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to say real quick, today we will hear the legendary stories told by U.S. Border Patrol Special Agent and Task Force Commander Alex Pacheco. Alex Pacheco is a retired U.S. Customs and Border Protection CBP Special Agent with 24 years of U.S. federal law enforcement experience. Alex previously served as a supervisor with the U.S. Border Patrol, Agent Task Force, Commander, International Liaison, CBP International Officer, and CBP Country Manager for the two countries of Guatemala and Belize. He is a member of the California Narcotics Officers Team of the Year and the recipient of that, and also recipient of the San Diego Sheriff's Meritorious Unit Citation Award. He is also an experienced international advisor certified by World Customs Organizations Instructor and has provided capacity building in the U.S., Mexico, Central America, and Guyana. He has worked in very high-risk environments of Tijuana, Baja California, Mexico, Guatemala City, Guatemala, and the Darien Province in Panama. Alex is a published author and experienced public speaker and subject matter expert in cross-border investigations and cartels operated in the Baja California region of Mexico. So, brother, we're looking forward to taking us once again on a journey. With that said, go ahead, Alex.
Hey, thanks for the intro. You know, when it boils down to it, I'm just really I'm a knuckle dragging, mouth breathing Border Patrol agent. It's really what I am. I was good at networking and talking to people. All those other things they're fantastic, but I was just a hard worker, and I had good contacts like yourself who introduced me to a whole different world, and I was able to right place, right time, and I learned how to take advantage of those situations in a good way, in a positive way, right?
And you know what, Alex, I had the pleasure of working with you several cases, and you know what, whenever I needed that special team that would go in and kick ass and take names, brother, you're the team that I would always call.
Yeah, that's my team.
We were very successful. Thank God for that.
Yeah, thank you.
Benny,
Alex,
it's all yours, brother.
Alex, you just the bottom line. So, soy la pinche migra.
Yeah. and we that helped us. So we hid behind that. I wanted people to think that's what we were, that we were just there on immigration charges. And we'll talk about this later, because we were able to wall off cases and wall off arrests for the big cases. And we'll get into some of those details later, but that's exactly what I wanted people to think. That's exactly what I wanted to think. That's all we were.
And you know what, Benny? One thing about Alex, though he was Border Patrol, and I got a chance to work with a lot of Border Patrol agents throughout my career, but Alex was special because even though he was Border Patrol, he knew how to talk to people. He knew how to win people over. And I saw him, turn a lot of good informants, turn a lot of individuals that were hardcore. Literally, by the end of the night, man, they were giving him great information because he always spoke to everybody with respect. And that's one thing, Alex, that I saw about you. And that's why I believe that's another one of the reasons, other than being a great worker, intelligent, and worked with a lot of passion, but you were also an individual that always respected everybody, and you got the respect back.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that.
You know, Alex, write it down so you can explain to our audience what a wall stop is and what it means to wall somebody, because a lot of people don't know what that is.
Yeah. So when you wall stop, it's a pretext stop. If you are on a wire case and you got 30 people that you're going to take down in 5 weeks, and you're on a wire, you're doing a phone intercept, and one or two of these guys are going to skip town, or they think they're being followed, or whatever the case may be, and you need to take those pieces off the chessboard at a certain period of time, you can reach out to a guy like me and the crim squad and the team, and we would tell you, hey, we can arrest these guys for whatever reason. We'll take them off the board for you. And we were able to wall this case off. So all they're thinking is immigration's coming in to arrest us. And I want them to think that. We listen to their calls in jail, and they're talking to the immigration lawyer. They're talking to their families. Say, I'll be back in Mexico in 2 weeks. Get me an immigration attorney. We're going to fight this. We're going to win the case, whatever the case may be, not knowing that these indictments are coming down. They're going to get hit in 3-4 months, and they're never getting out of jail. But we were able to wall it off. And that was the beauty of it, walling off the case. For the big cases, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm. Alex, back in 2000, I can't remember the year, I can't remember. Were you at the San Diego airport when I brought back one of our cartel guys for murder for hire? When we shut down the airport so this plane landed. No. The U.S. Marshals brought him down.
I remember this, but I was not there.
Because that was my case. And I thought, when you asked me if I met you before, I said, wait a minute, I think he was there. Because the plane landed, we shut down the airport so we could get this guy off board. It was one of my cases. I remember hearing about that, but I was not physically present. I was there for one turnover at the San Diego airport that came from Mexico. And I specifically remember it, and definitely wasn't that. Okay. So, Alex, let's start this thing, man. Who is Edgar Campos Barraza? What was that case all about?
Edgar Campos Barraza, alias El Cholo. Before we talk about Edgar Campos Barraza, I think we need to talk about his crew, so you get a feeling, an idea for who Edgar Campos Barraza was. So Edgar Campos Barraza was part of a crew called Los Garibais. Los Garibais worked for a guy named Manuel Garibay. Manuel Garibay was initially an AFO guy, not an Ariano Felix cartel member, mid-90s when the Arianos were hot and heavy in Tijuana, but he ran the Mexicali Plaza. According to open source and other sources, he lost a big cocaine load in the late 90s, and he refused to pay for that load. And instead of owning up to his loss, he jumped ship. He goes, I'm going to jump over to Sinaloa because I don't want to pay this money back. He became a Sinaloa operative working out of Mexicali, south of Mexicali, Ejido, Chiapas, I believe, that Mexicali Valley where the river kind of runs behind Mexicali there. And he ruled that area with an iron fist. And Cholo, Edgar Campos Barraza, was part of his crew, along with several other people, including corrupt police officers and other members of the Sinaloa cartel. And they ran that whole Mexicali Valley. Now, right around 1999, they were one of the first ones that I recall hearing about. And I wasn't doing these types of investigations yet, but this is what I know from interviews with sources, that one of the first kidnappings they were one of the first ones in the 90s to outfit an SUV with police lights and make it look like a cop car, guys were tacked out in all black uniforms, and they kidnapped this impresario, a farmer, not really a farmer,
businessman.
a businessman, and that's not even a good word. We're talking like a land baron. You know, if you're the corn guy, this is where you got all the corn. He had, you know, thousands and thousands of acres. So they would want either access to the land to do their illicit activities, to either stash the narcotics, to have their planes land, or to move their narcotics through, or they would look at it as an opportunity to say, you know what, let's kidnap this guy. We can get a lot of money for him because he has tens, maybe hundreds of thousands of acres of corn or asparagus or whatever he's growing at that time, or cattle, right? Think Yellowstone level type land, right? And this is one of the first times I remember reading of, you know, somebody dressed up like police officers. Now it's commonplace. You read it all throughout Mexico. And that's where they started. You know, they were very violent, and they took over that Mexicali Plaza pretty quick, right? Murders, kidnapping. So they start with kidnappings, right? Kidnapping these businessmen, these land barons, if you will. And I remember listening to Jim Bird's podcast a couple of weeks ago, and he was talking about the same MO, right? They kidnap the individual, cut off a finger, send it to the family, and the family would pay the ransom. These ransoms were high because these were very wealthy people. The ransoms were between $400 up to $900,000, and you're talking like early 2000s to 2010. You know, that's a lot of money now. You go back, you know, 15, 20 years ago, that's a significantly larger amount than even now, right? So these guys are raking in a lot of cash. Now, you got to think about it. At the same time, they're still moving narcotics, right? Transporting it, doing wholesale drug sales in Mexicali, paying off the corrupt cops, handling business on the streets, and in addition to that, also kidnapping individuals. Now, one of the first kidnappings they did when they dressed up as police officers, they actually had an off-duty police officer that was in there with them. He started hemming and hawing about the money, and they murdered him. So not only did they kidnap an individual and corrupt the police officer, they murdered this police officer. So they got murder on their hands, and which was very commonplace for this Garibay crew, which Edgar Campos was a part of. Let me stress that. And things progress. Now, 4 or 5 other kidnappings occur with these large-scale individuals that are being kidnapped, and they finally kidnapped one guy. His name escapes me right now. I can't remember the gentleman's name, but unfortunately, the family, for whatever reason, either they couldn't come up with the money, or didn't come up with the money in time, or would not come up with the money. I really can't recall. They ended up killing this landowner, and you know, things get kind of out of hand, and they're able to identify Edgar as one of these individuals, and Edgar flees north. Poof, just disappears. Now they start the investigation, and one of the investigations, Federico Alvideres, I believe, was the PGJE state prosecutor's name. Procuraduría Grupo Judicial del Estado. It's the state investigators. Now I'm working with the state police, Policía Estatal Preventiva. They call them the Pepos. Also, I had a really good relationship with them. They had a fantastic intel department in Mexicali. And for the listeners who don't know, Mexicali is the capital of Baja California. It's not TJ, it's Mexicali. And so that's where like the governor is, and the main police headquarters and whatnot. So I'm working with them a lot. They hand me a lot of information. I'm not going to Mexicali, but I'm doing the information sharing, handling investigations. And they had given me a lot of individuals that were wanted for murder in Mexico that were living in the United States. We talked about Yayo the last time. This is just another one of those types, but Campos was a ghost. We couldn't find him. So I had lists that had come from all over, from PGR, the Mexican Attorney General's office, from municipal police, from federal police, from the military. I mean, like phone books. I mean, like thousands and thousands of names of individuals. I mean, people in the patrol are still working some of these. The names are in text and IDEN. In our immigration and our Treasury Enforcement Communication System, in that system, all these alerts are still in there. And we had categorized some of these guys. Like some of them were ghosts, right? Some of them were generic names, or we'd run them in our systems, and this person had never crossed into the United States. ever. We never found them. We were never able to identify them at all. Either they'd come in with a fake name, which happens quite often with undocumented immigrants, or they had never come through with that name or a variation. So we were kind of put them aside because we didn't have any indication they were in the States. Well, Edgar Campos Barraza had crossed. We had pictures of him. We put alerts on this individual. So we knew he had entered illegally in the United States at some point after some of these murders and kidnappings. Now, I had a fantastic team. This wasn't all me. It was the team. Don't get me wrong. Vic, who's the primary case agent on this, these guys are rocking and rolling. They're going after their previously deported aggravated felons. They're sacking up gangsters for the San Diego PD, National City, going after guys with guns on the streets, handling other cases. And this is kind of like a side job for us, right? We're doing all our regular work for the Border Patrol. Our primary mission is going after these previously deported aggravated felons. And then when things would slow down, which was kind of rare, I'd hit the guys up and say, hey, what's up with this case? What's up with that homicide? What's up with this rape case? Where are we at with this? And Vic was, doing his checks, and he goes, hey, boss, I think I found the guy's dad. He's querying the guy, and he goes, yeah, I found an address for him, and it's in Ohio. We're like, Ohio? What the fuck's this guy doing in Ohio? So we're like, hey, who's got somebody in Ohio? So we start looking around, and we find out, I had no idea, we have a Sandusky Border Patrol station. So shout out to the Sandusky Border Patrol station out there. I had no idea we had one. I do now, obviously, but this was, back in 2010, 2011. So Vic's like, yeah, we found this guy in Sandusky, Ohio. So he reaches out to somebody, and somebody in the office knew an agent there. And I can't remember where. I believe he was a former Brownfield agent where we were from. And the guy goes, yeah, I'll take a look at the address. Well, lo and behold, he drives out to the address. And I can't remember if it was the first or second day, does some surveillance and said, holy shit, Edgar Campos is here. This guy looks just like the photo that we have. Reaches out to the Ohio State Troopers. Ohio State Troopers now do us a solid as opposed to us doing a wall stop. They do the wall stop for us. They wait for Edgar Campos to leave. They do a vehicle stop on him, and they're able to identify him positively. Doesn't speak any English. So they have Border Patrol come in for translation purposes. They're able to determine who he is, and boom, they arrest him. Now, this happened a lot. This guy had been living in Sandusky, Ohio for almost a decade. Now, mind you, and this goes to all the police officers out there, all the new cops, everybody, do your FIs. 99% of the guys that we found that were either previously deported aggravated felons or people that were wanted for murder in foreign countries we were able to identify them because you did a good FI. You stopped somebody, and the guy in the passenger seat was hinky, and you decided, you know what? I got to FI this guy. Or you would document every single little thing on there, and that's how we were able to put these pieces of the pie together. It was an FI from maybe 5 years ago, and that's how we're able to find them. So these are key. You might be that first, last, and only person to have that piece of information documented, because if you don't, it's not going to help anybody. So, Sandusky, Ohio helps us. The state troopers help us find them. They arrest them, and of course, it happened with every single homicide guy we got. As soon as we get hands on this guy, everybody who had nothing to do with this case at all starts showing up. FBI showing up. Oh yeah, we knew about this guy, and the marshals and ICE, and we're going to handle it from here. And that's where we had to step in. Like, well, what are you talking about? Like, nobody had looked at this guy in a decade. Nobody knew who was here, and they know they're here now. And now everybody wants a piece of the pie. And I play well in the sandbox. I'm not going to say mine, but the Mexican police officers that are helping me, they need to get their guy back. There was a Mexicali cop that was killed, and there was a PGJ state investigator that was murdered by this guy. And we need to get him back to his agency, not just to some random guy because you work with him. We need to get him back here. So he was there several weeks, maybe a month or so, before we were able to get ICE to fly him back to San Diego. And we were able to coordinate the turnover at the old Whiskey 2 gate, and you see that, which no longer exists, which is a shame. I wish that place has great memories. If anybody's ever been to Whiskey 2, it was just this old, creaky Jurassic Park type gate with 2 locks, little immigration building off to the side, and literally have done hundreds of turnovers not just of homicide and super bad guys, but just people that will return to Mexico through that gate. And that's how that went down. And it was one of many that we did. That was national news. It was all over, LA Times and things of that nature. But it was a great case. The U.S. Marshals did help us with the turnover there. We had a really good relationship with a local marshal here. And yeah, that was the turnover of Edgar Campos Barraza.
Hey, Alex, were you guys able to debrief him? Did he give you any great information on what the cartels were doing in Mexicali at the time?
You know what? A lot of these guys, what we were really trying to do, yes, we were able to debrief him, and he owned up to being part of this cell and being part of the Sinaloa cell and involved in the kidnappings. But we would try and limit. When we had them, our goal was to get them back to Mexico, because in the eyes of the United States, in the eyes of U.S. law enforcement, all right, this individual is here as an illegal alien. He's here undocumented. And we want to get him out of our country as soon as possible into Mexican justice. We have the oficio from Mexico. He committed the crime in Mexico, and we want to turn him back over as fast as humanly possible. So we don't want to keep them here too long. Now, if the guy wanted the debrief and we just started telling us everything, we keep him here for the interview. But our focus was more to get him processed. And at the time, we had something called a voluntary return, a VR. And we would do everything we can to get them to VR. We'd say, hey, if you sign right here and you agree to not go see an immigration judge, I'll get you back to Mexico in 5 minutes. I'm not beholden to tell this guy he's wanted for homicide in Mexico. I'm just beholden to tell him here, are you here undocumented? Absolutely, I am here. All right. You want to go back to Mexico? Yes, I do. Sign right here. Here's your voluntary return form. I'll get you back to Mexico in 5 minutes. Really? Yeah, absolutely. And then I turn them over to the Mexican authorities. Now, not every time. Sometimes they would fight it because they knew they were wanted. But that was the goal. We did not sit and actually debrief with him. Now, when we turn him over, the Mexicans would end up debriefing him. And they have some advanced interrogation techniques where they might be able to elicit a little more information than we can.
So, Alex, who was running Mexicali at the time? Which cartel was running it? Was it
Sinaloa? I think that was under, I think it was Macho Prieto at the time and El Ondeado, El M1. Manuel Torres Felix, I believe, and Garibais were one of their cells. But Macho Prieto for sure was running Mexicali, because I remember we get a lot of intel on him. I never looked into him. I didn't even look into Garibais. We were looking at this specific individual as a cartel investigation. This was an individual's wanted for homicide, and that's what we were looking at. And we found him undocumented in the United States. Now, after we find this guy and we realize, holy crap, we got a player, we got a real person. We knew obviously he was involved in kidnappings and homicides, but a lot of the stuff that we end up finding is historical after we take him into custody. But yeah, it was El Macho Prieto who was in charge of the plaza at the time.
So the Garibais were under Sinaloa?
The Garibais initially were under Ariano Felix.
Okay.
And like I said, I think it was Manuel who lost the big load. And according to open source, I recall, he lost a large cocaine load, didn't want to pay for it, and said, screw this, I'm going to jump ship, and jumped over to Sinaloa. A lot of these guys, they jump ship from one cartel to the next if things don't go their way. And so Sinaloa was primarily controlling that region, at least as far as we know.
Yeah, they call them Chapulines.
Siempre. Yeah, that's exactly what they would do.
Chapulines. That's what they call them, Chapulines. Jump from one place to another.
Yep, the grasshoppers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Alex, tell us about some of the migrant rapes and the kidnappings that you investigated, you were involved in as an investigator.
Horrible. Working along the border, you deal with smugglers of all different types, right? You deal with human trafficking, you deal with human smuggling, and you deal with a lot of migrant kidnapping, and I've dealt with the whole gamut, right? From the trafficking of what we used to call ODMs, other than Mexicans, right? Anything that wasn't Mexican, when I came in, we call them ODMs. And that could be Central Americans, Chinese, Middle Eastern, you name it, right? And let me talk a little bit about the difference between human trafficking and human smuggling. Right? Trafficking is basically against your will. You do not want to be trafficked. You don't want to be brought in the United States. You were brought here as an indentured service. As an indentured servant, you're brought here against your will, and that is human trafficking. Human smuggling is you're making an agreement. You want to come into the United States. You make an agreement with a smuggler in your hometown, somebody here vouches to pay for you, and you make your way into the United States illegally with a smuggler, right? And that's how a lot of these migrants would end up getting kidnapped. Now, you talk about drug smugglers and you talk about human smugglers, right? If you put two of these people together in front of me and you ask me which is the worst, hands down, 100%, human smugglers are the biggest pieces of shit. And I'll tell you why. You know, if you take a narcotics smuggler, right, and you have 100 kilos of whatever narcotic, I don't care what it is, and they're being chased by Border Patrol in the desert, and they abandon that narcotic in the desert, right? You're just a cowardly smuggler who doesn't want to get caught, right? That's it. You're abandoning your dope and you're taking off. If you're a human smuggler with a vehicle full of people, or you're guiding migrants, families, children through the desert, you know, I've been on the Tohono O'odham Indian Reservation in southern Arizona, south of Tucson, right? In Ajo, that whole area. And it's 120 degrees, middle of August. And you abandon 100 people because you don't want to get caught. You're a mass murderer because you are leaving people to die. So you're an absolute piece of shit. So we're talking about human smugglers and whatnot. Now let's get into these migrant kidnappings, right? These are some of the most horrific cases I've ever experienced. Some of these interviews I've done on the victims of migrant kidnapping crews, and I've done many of them. They're horrible. They haunt you because you're robbing from the poorest of the poor. You know, listeners, any of us, you know, you rip me off for $500, $1,000. I'm not rich or anything, but you rip me off for $500 to $1,000, and you're probably not going to ruin me. It's going to suck, right? My wife's going to be pissed. Like, you lost all this money. I'm going to be upset, right? I'm not going to be happy about it, but I'm not going to be ruined, right? It's not going to ruin me. You rob a migrant coming across the border for $500 to $1,000. That's what the guy had to come and try and make a better life. And I'm not defending him trying to come to the United States and doing things illegally, but you're a real piece of shit for robbing from the poorest of the poor. So let's talk about, before we get into some of the specific cases, let's talk about a couple of the MOs that I've experienced when it comes to the alien smugglers and the migrant kidnappings. So one, there's been a couple of groups, and I'm not even going to mention their names because I don't want to give them any credence as to to glorify who the hell they were. But there was one specific smuggling crew that, all right, let's just say, for example, at the time when I was working, a migrant coming across, I'm going to use nice round generic numbers, right? Was $10,000 a person. It's a lot more than that now. $10,000 a person to come across the border. Migrants would get sent back in busloads, and when you'd be walking back to Whiskey 2, all the other smugglers sitting there, and they're like, "Hey, you want to cross? You want to cross? You want to cross?" Because a migrant is not going to pay $10,000 up front to a smuggler. They're going to pay a portion. They're going to pay $500, and somebody in the U.S. side is going to vouch for them. And that smuggler's going to know who they are. They're going to provide them ID. They're going to provide them phone numbers, and that person is the sponsor. That person is going to be responsible for that migrant because it's their family member. It's like if David's in Florida and I'm in Tijuana, I got to make it to the U.S. Hey, David, I need you to vouch for me. Send them your ID. You and your wife, tell them where you live, and you have to send a picture. Show them who you are, and you vouch. You raise your right hand and say, "I'm going to cover that $9,500 when Alex makes it to the U.S. I'll pay it. I'm going to send it via Electra, via Western Union. That's how we're going to take care of things once he makes it safe in the U.S." That's the agreement, right? So the smuggler can try with him multiple times, right? A minimum deposit. So these migrants are making it back south. The smuggler's like, "Hey, how much are you getting charged? You're getting charged 10. You're getting charged 10. Hey, you know what? I'll charge you 5. Wow, that's a big difference. That's a huge cost difference. I'll risk that $500 already invested, and I'll go with you for $5,000. So what's the deal, Mr. New Smuggler? Well, this new smuggling crew, who was never a smuggler, they're kidnappers. They tell the migrants, "Well, we have a corrupt Customs and Border Protection officer." This is a very common MO. "And we have a corrupt Customs and Border Protection officer, and we're going to smuggle you in the trunk of a car. Come with us." So 4, 5, 6 migrants, 10, whatever. All guys that know each other from Oaxaca, Pacheco, wherever they come from, right? They take them to this, wherever they're going, residence. He said, okay, here's the car. We're going to throw you in. We're going to throw you in this trunk of this car, and you're going to come up to the border. So they'll put two guys in the trunk of the car, and they'll drive around Tijuana, drive in circles, literally. And they pulled up to a fake checkpoint, right? They'll just stop somewhere in some neighborhood. And somebody they have that speaks English will come up like they're crossing the border. These migrants have never crossed an international border, so they don't know what the hell to expect. And somebody will come up and literally knock on the doors, tap on the cars, talk to the driver. Hi, welcome to the United States. What do you have anything to declare? Man, I see your documents, what's your citizenship? And they'll do the whole thing like you do when you normally come to the United States. And then they'll say, all right, thank you very much. Welcome to the United States. The whole time they're in Mexico. They've never entered the United States. It's all bullshit. And they'll drive around Tijuana for a little bit more. And then they pull into a house somewhere in Tijuana, somewhere near the border fence. And they pull into a pull into a garage that is completely blocked off. The windows are all shuttered, foil, cardboard, wood, and there's no access to exit this house. And they pull in there, and the smugglers will walk in there, and they'll walk up to somebody. They'll identify either somebody who they think is the stronger person or the weaker person, and they will have an immediate act of violence. They will walk up to him, and they will pistol whip him. They'll beat the living shit out of him, and they will say, call your sponsor, tell them you made it to the United States, and have them send the money right now. Have them send the money right now. And if they don't, they will videotape it, and they will beat the crap out of this person. So imagine Theo David, who's sitting over in, somewhere in Florida, who's waiting for me to cross the border. And next thing you know, he's getting a video of me, and they are beating the living shit out of me, right? I'm being physically assaulted. They're smacking me across the backside with 2x4s. You see these videos, these pictures. This is not my case, but this was so unbelievably common. And now, like, oh my God, you're going to pay. Now it gets even worse when there's females involved, because it'll start with sexual assault to rapes, and they will videotape this and send it to the family members. So anybody who's a family member, you have a loved one, you're going to pay the money. And here's the kicker. Where did the crime occur? The crime occurs in Mexico, right? These migrants, they have nowhere to go, right? And that's just one of the MOs, right? The other MO, believe it or not, is even worse. It's even worse. The other MO is very similar, all right? The migrants come across, they come back across the border, and the same MO, hey, how you getting back? And I found out about this MO. The Border Patrol had something called the Omega Unit, and they would investigate strictly migrant kidnapping cases. They would do other things. They were involved in something called at a period they had something called the Coyote ACID program, the Alien Smuggler Identification Program. I think that's the correct acronym. And what the Border Patrol was able to do, this program no longer exists, as far as I know. But what the Border Patrol was able to do was, if they were able to get a certain amount of material witnesses on previously identified foot guides, coyotes, smugglers, boyeros, whatever you want to call them, and the Mexican government had said, yeah, these guys are documented on our side too. And we got witnesses, material witnesses that were willing to testify in Mexico, and we got the witnesses on the U.S. side. Mexico would prosecute them on the south side. So it was a pretty good relationship that Omega was doing, and other stations were also doing it. And they were also investigating these. The Omega was also investigating the migrant kidnapping. I supervised the migrant kidnapping team for a short period of time, not a very long period of time, but I did help with a lot of those cases. Anyway, there was a priest at Casa del Migrante in Tijuana who had a good relationship with the previous supervisor of the Casa del Migrante. And that supervisor, when he left, was gracious enough to pass over that contact. And this priest would call me and he'd say, hey, Alex, I had four migrants show up, and they need to talk to somebody. The women have been assaulted or raped or physically assaulted. They want to meet you. Can you meet them at the border? And it didn't matter what time, 2 a.m., 5 a.m., 10 o'clock at night. I would drive down to San Isidro, and he would bring them to the border, or he would tell them to walk to the border, and I'd get them paroled in, and I'd sit there and I'd talk to them. I'd take their statements, buy them food, and the story went like this. Yeah, same thing. They've been arrested, usually in the East County, the East Brownfield, El Cajon, Campo, Boulevard Station area, basically east of Tijuana, Ni Los Águilas, Tecate, La Rumorosa, Jardines del Rincón, out that way towards East County. Very desolate, very, very rough terrain. You'd come back and the smugglers would say, well, same thing. How much did you pay? I paid X amount of dollars. I'll give you a better deal, better discount. Come with us. Of course, what person who doesn't have a whole lot of money and can get a deal that is 50% off, right? Or even lower, I take that deal if I didn't know any better, right? These people are trusting individuals that come from, a lot of them come from small towns who don't know any better. They're going to think, oh, guys, these are smugglers. They're looking out for me. They're going to help me out. Bullshit. They're absolute scumbags. So these smugglers would take them out to East County, to the desolate areas, right along the border fence, always at night, take large groups of individuals. They would walk out and they'd say, all right, hey, we're going out to this area, be really quiet. They'd be very close to the border fence. Some of the pictures that you have, David, of these caves, they're not necessarily caves. They're more like little breaks in the mountain, little areas, little alcoves, if you will. And they would hide them in there. Yeah, exactly. In there. They call them caves, but not really caves. They're kind of like little alcoves. And that's where they would stash these individuals. And they'd say, hey, you guys, wait right here. You got to be really quiet. You have to listen to everything we say because there's a lot of bandits out here. Now, bandits in that area do exist. All right. Bandits in that area exist. There's bandits looking for other bandits because there's drug smuggling, there's marijuana backpacking, there's alien smuggling. If you don't pay plaza, that other rival kidnapping crew or that other rival bandit, they're going to rip you. They're going to take your shit. They're going to rob you. They're going to kill you, whatever the case may be. So the smuggler would leave and he'd say, wait right here. We're going to go walk ahead and we're going to clear the area to make sure there's no bandits there. So the same exact boyeros, the same exact foot guides would walk off into the brush. They'd go into the brush. They'd come back with hoodies, with balaclavas, right? And they do the same thing. They would come up and they physically assault somebody in the group, beat the shit out of them, usually with a rifle or a handgun or just physically a rock, whatever the case may be. They get the whole group there and they tell everybody, all right, they go from person to person, call your family or something's going to happen to you. And they would send videos to the family members, send the money, send the money, send the money. There's many reports, many material witnesses I've spoken to where, women would tell me they've been sexually assaulted. One woman was raped as her 9-year-old or 10-year-old boy was literally held with his back to her, right next to her. These people were horrific pieces of crap who were posing as alien smugglers, but the whole time there was no smuggling. This was a kidnapping and extortion event. And it was absolutely horrific to see the trauma on these people's faces because they think they're coming here and make a better life, whatever the case may be. And then they're faced with this horrific event that occurs. And this was very common. One of these specific kidnapping crews, I recall, had 2 brothers. I believe they were from Oaxaca. And they had one brother dig the grave for his own brother. And then they were both executed and buried in the same exact grave. Another guide who was supposed to be working that area, foot guide, coyote, pollero, whatever you want to call him, right? One of these smugglers was sodomized with a sagebrush, whatever piece of wood that was out there, and he bled out. He died, because he was sodomized by these absolute, horrific, like vile. I wouldn't even call them human beings. A lot of them end up getting killed, and it's pretty vile life. There was a big crew in Mexicali. I think they were called Los M's. Maldonado Mejia. One of the brothers I believe he had been arrested for kidnapping and was in prison. And his crew or whatever cartel he was a part of had him broken out of prison, and he escaped like 2010 or whatever. And he made it to Mexicali, and he started doing the same thing. He was kidnapping migrants in Mexicali, in that valley, and he did it for quite some time. Same exact thing, same MO that was happening in San Diego was happening all along the border. The El Centro PAs that are working out in that area, their international liaison unit probably had the same exact thing that we were dealing with, and it was absolutely horrific. It was really horrific. And they took this emic crew down fairly quick. I don't know, 18 months or 2 years. And then the kidnapping dried up. Like you realize, oh man, these guys were doing all the kidnapping in the Mexicali area. But then within 6 months, it starts again. And it's a sister that's involved. So it was a family thing, you know. As long as there are evil, vile people in this world, and there are people that to be taken advantage of, this is going to happen, especially in the migrant community. But
right, Benny, let's go ahead and go to the next question.
Mm-hmm. Can't hear you.
We can't hear you, Benny. I think you muted yourself, brother.
Yeah, I did. I did.
Yeah. Go
It's
ahead.
the moonshine. It's the moonshine, Benny.
It's a moonshine. I'm not gonna start saying, guys.
All right.
So anyway, we're gonna jump into a different subject. You know, we're gonna be talking about CIA. What's your experience working with the CIA? I know you guys work with the CIA, and when you work with the CIA, what kind of training do you get, if you get any at all?
Very unique. You know, let me tell you, as a young kid growing up in La Puente, where I grew up in Los Angeles, never in a million years, number one, did I think I'd be in a podcast. Number two, did I ever think I'd be sitting here talking to an audience of people about working with the intelligence community and the Central Intelligence Agency? It's just, it's even talking about it today, it seems absolutely surreal. And it's one of my greatest career honors. It really is. So the way it happened was, you know, I had a knack for intel, for talking to people. I didn't know that I was good at recruiting sources. You know, like David said, I talk to anybody, I don't care. I'll talk to you. And I think I learned that from my parents. You know, anywhere we go, you could be the president of a company, you could be the cleaning person. I was taught to treat everybody with the same respect. And I do it to this day, I do the same. My kids know, you know, you don't treat anybody different. I don't care if you're the cleaning person or the president, everybody's treated the same. And I did that. And I think it helped me out a lot. So, you know, I'm doing intel, I'm doing a lot of intelligence collection. I'm running the criminal alien squad under the smuggling interdiction group, which was, again, another highlight of my life and career. That I love that team and everybody that was part of SIG and the Crim Squad. It was one of the most amazing things I've ever experienced. And I had a good buddy who was in DC. I'd worked at Intel with him. His name's KP. He was a chief up there. And he calls me up one day and he goes, "Hey, dude," he goes, "there's this course I want to send you to. It's in the East Coast. You got a clearance?" And I go, "Yeah, I got a clearance. I'm going to send you this course." He goes, "I don't want to send some Intel guy that's not going to do shit with it." He goes, "I think you'll do something with it." And I'm like, "What is it?" He goes, "It's classified. Just show up." I get in an airplane, 6 weeks, 6 or 8 weeks. I can't remember. It was a long time. And so I fly to the East Coast, and the first couple of weeks are, and let me preface it with this. This course was post 9/11, right? Post 9/11, the 9/11 Commission makes a determination, and that, you know, our police officers are great at tactical intelligence, right? We really are. But we sucked, I should say, at collecting national intelligence or even recognizing issues of national security. Where the intelligence community, you know, the NSA, the Central Intelligence Agency, the DOD, all these special 3-letter agencies that, you know, that nobody really talks about and doesn't have a lot of experience outside of that intelligence community, they're fantastic at collecting things that are impacting issues of national security. And again, at that time, 9/11, prior to that, there wasn't a real conduit. There was no connection. And this course was kind of designed for us to build that to build that bridge and understand where we could help each other out. So the first couple weeks are analytical stuff, which was really good, and we learned about, you know, recruiting sources. You know, here in the U.S. as cops, when we recruit a source, it's quid pro quo, right? I catch you rolling with 30 kilos of cocaine, you got an option, right? You go to prison for a long fucking time, or you work for me. Those are your options. There are no other options, right? You're either going to get locked up, or you're going to go to work. Most go to work, okay? There's no other option. When intelligence communities work overseas, they don't have that leverage. They don't have that hammer. They have to develop it. And I found that source recruitment cycle, it's open source. This is nothing classified. We're not going to give up state secrets here, right? But when when I went through that portion of the course, I found it interesting. But I was already doing a lot of that stuff. When you see that girl you like and you want to talk to her, you want to date her, it's the same thing, right? You're spotting. They talk about spotting your source, right? You go somewhere, you're like, oh my goodness, this is the girl I want to talk to. Oh, look, I know her friend. That's where I'm going to start with. That's my spot. She has access to this information. She has access to that girl. That's where I'm going to go. I'm going to go talk to her. And you just start talking to her. I build a rapport with this girl, right? To get to my primary goal, right? This is the girl I want to talk to. And when I'm building that rapport, I really genuinely want to find something with this person that I have in common. But a genuine thing, a real thing, like not just some bullshit thing. For me, it's going to be like sports, it's going to be food, it's going to be religion, culture. And I was able to bring that portion to what I was doing in on the border, because culturally speaking, everybody I was talking to had similar background, because I'm Latino, Mexican, and I had a lot of similarities. So I had a good understanding of human intelligence and how to recruit these sources. Anyway, that portion was really good. The source recruitment part of it. Now I'm not going to get too much more into that, because then I'll get myself in any trouble. But that was a really, really cool part. The part that I loved, that really served me well, was the tradecraft portion. That was, again, you can Google this. A lot of this is open source. Is how to handle a source, properly overseas. Because remember, you're dealing with a source of information, and these people are betraying their families. They are betraying their loved ones. They are betraying individuals that could ultimately kill them or do them significant harm to them or to their families. All right. And as source handlers, as source recruiters, we are beholden to keep them safe. I don't give a shit if they're the worst person in the world. We still got to keep them safe, because they're giving us intel. They're making our job easier. They're making America better, right? And safer with the information they're providing us. So we have to do a better job of protecting them. And when I started learning some of that tradecraft, they were teaching us, how to do surveillance properly, how to detect counter surveillance, some of these things. It was fantastic. It was an absolute eye opener. And when I came back, I reached out. And didn't realize, I had this, this contact who had access to information that, might be of interest for issues of national security. And it blossomed from there. I was able to work with multiple different handlers and able to successfully recruit an individual with that agency. And one of the really nice things was, I was told they had a meeting with their chief of station, and our San Diego chief came down. It was just me. I'd never met our San Diego chief. Great guy. He comes down, and their chief of station's there. Of course, the handler I'm with, and me. It's 4 people in the office, and they come in. This little plaque. It's a very generic plaque, right? Thank you for something from your colleagues in the something clandestine service. Thank you for your service against our common enemies, blah, 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 domestic, foreign, whatever the case may be, some generic thing. And they talked about the case, and that was it. They gave me a little plaque, and I was told, I don't know how true this is. I like to believe it's true, but I was told I was the first ever United States Border Patrol agent to successfully recruit and handle a source with the CIA, which made me very proud. Now, the Border Patrol's been around since 1924. It's older than the CIA, which I think has been around about 50 years. I like to believe that some of my predecessors had some contact with the patrol. With the CIA at some point, and have done some of this type of work. If they haven't, I'm very proud that I was the first one. I was told that, at least. And if that's the case, I'm excited about it. But it's been done since, probably to a much more refined and better level than I did, way more. But it was kind of cool to be like a little bit of a trailblazer in that realm. I'm very proud of that. And
hey, Alex, we have a question from one of our listeners, Big Joe 67. I believe he's a lieutenant at Soledad, or a captain for the Department of Corrections. He's watching this all the way from the Soledad area, Salinas Valley. I'm sorry.
I'm reading that, and I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I think that's a bunch of bullshit.
Okay? That's a question he has. Do you, in your opinion, the CIA having something to do with the Kiki Camarena killing? It's bullshit.
I do not believe the CIA was involved in the killing of Kiki Camarena at all. That was Caro Quintero and the Guadalajara cartel. I don't think the CIA was involved in that at all. I know what you're talking about. There's another person out there making these claims. I don't have intimate knowledge of the case. I know Steve Duncan, who's part of this foundation with a Camarena Foundation, and yeah, I don't think there's any credence to that at all. I think he's the only one that is seeing this. So that's my personal opinion.
Yeah. And you know what? On the 23rd, we have Mike Vigil. He's going to be talking about specifically about the ties with the CIA regarding the killing of Kiki Camarena, and he shares your opinion. But it's going to be a great episode. Okay. Hey, brother, listen. Our last question. Our time has gone on us, but we want to definitely ask you this question right now with the new immigration laws that President Trump has instituted in America. One of the things that we're seeing, I don't know if you're seeing it in California, but we're definitely seeing it right now in Florida, and that's let me go ahead and move this out of the way. One of the things is our Governor DeSantis, which is an excellent governor, by the way, but he is implementing a new law where legislation is about, or they have approved it, or they're about to approve, where they're going to deputize all the municipal police departments to basically serve as immigration officers, to the extent that when they conduct a traffic stop, they could illegally detain and arrest somebody for being in the country illegally, a non-documented migrant worker. Can you explain to our viewers what that is, and if we're going to see that nationwide, or is it going to be state by state?
Look, we cross-border people all the time. Border Patrol agents, federal agents are cross-border. I was a cross-border deputy sheriff when I was working with the Border Crime Suppression Team, right? Yeah, we can deputize individuals. I think it's a great thing. I think our Secretary of Homeland Security, I think the President, Tom Homan, I think they're doing a fantastic job on the front of immigration. And this is one of the things that needs to be done for our local cops to have access to immigration. Like I said, we are dealing with an influx of individuals that are coming into the nation, and we don't know who they are. And officers need to be able to have just another tool in their toolbox to fight crime. Not that every single person you're dealing with in immigration is a criminal, but have that tool in your tool belt, right? Have that tool in your tool belt. I think it's fantastic. Look, if I had a magic wand, I would put one of my crim squads in every major police department throughout the nation. Imagine this, David. You worked with my crim squad, a crim squad at every single major police department in the nation, and you're forced to work with us or you're not getting any federal funding, and let them go to work. We're not going to arrest mom and pop for immigration violations. We're going to take every single bad guy, every gangster, every single alien with a gun, every previously reported aggravated felon, every scumbag that should not legally be here, and we'll remove them for you, or we will incarcerate them for you, and we'll make your job as a city cop a lot easier and a lot safer. I think it's a great thing. I hope it happens across the country. There's some law in California, I cannot remember the name of it, that our horrible governor Newsom has implemented, where law enforcement cannot work with immigration authorities. I hope that doesn't go into play, and we're able to work with all of our municipal brothers out there. So,
Alex, I think that came on in 2014, 2015.
It sounds about right.
Unless you were on a task force where you're allowed to talk to Border Patrol, or we were doing a major Investigation dealing with an illegal alien. Other than that, patrol guys could not call Border Patrol. Jail could not call Border Patrol. It was hands off.
Yeah, they weren't even honoring some of our immigration holds at one point. And it wasn't by lack of the officers. It was their policy, right? The officers wanted to call us, but they're not going to override their policies and get themselves in trouble.
Hey, brother, our time is up, and as you're talking, I'm putting all these pictures of you with all these legends, Border Patrol legends, Sheriff's legend, Joe Leos. I just showed you guys were holding a couple of bundles of marijuana, you traveling around the world. I mean, what a career you had, brother. And then being the Mayans advisor. Last time you were on the show, you talked about it.
About that? That was a great time.
Great time. Hey, brother, you know what, man? Una vez más, mil gracias. Thank you very much, brother, for being on the show. Please give Alex Lares my utmost respect.
You a big hug for me?
I have a lot of love for Alex. He's a great man. He's like a little brother to me. Please give him my
me too.
Brother. Thank you. Benny, any last words for Alex?
You know, Alex, as a deputy sheriff, I always said from the get-go, I have a lot of respect for Border Patrol. They are the only ones that are out there in the middle of nowhere. Not even, I mean, it's dark. I mean, it is really dark out there. You can't even see in front of you again. To be out there encountering large groups of people on their own in the middle of nowhere. Most of the time, they don't even know where they're at because you just follow the noise. You follow the screams. And next thing you know, you don't even know if you're in no man's land.
Yeah.
So I've always had a lot of honor for you guys. Thank you for your service, brother.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
And Alex, promise us you're coming back.
I'll be back.
You'll definitely be back without a doubt. Hey, thank you. Thank you very much. God bless you, Alex. Be safe out there, brother.
All right. Talk to you soon.
Oh, hey, Alex, before I forget, let me post this up real quick. Tell us about your company, because if somebody that's watching the show that wants to hire you to do some training, let me bring this up. I wanted to bring it up. Here we go. Tell us about your company.
Check out the Pacheco Advisory Group, my website, and my Instagram. We do training all over the world, specializing in variety of training, whether it be executive protection, whether it be verbal de-escalation. I teach at a lot of the local casinos, almost half of them. Situational awareness, any type of law enforcement tactical training, we can provide it. So thank you very much, David, for that.
Thank you, brother.
Alex, I'll be in touch because we got some training coming up, and I'd be interested in having you on.
Fantastic.
Just don't charge me too much.
No, I won't. I love Palm Springs.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. God bless you, Alex. Thank you.
All right, take care.
Man, great episode, huh?
Oh yeah, absolutely, man. Good
outstanding episode. Hey, hopefully you know what, you could get him and Alex Lares, the former Secretary of Public Safety Tijuana. They provide a great training. Get him to your conference. I think that he would definitely be a big blessing. And I know for a fact he's not going to charge you. What he'll do is pay your hotel, pay his gas, and he'll be there for free, brother, without a doubt, man. Yeah.
That was a great episode, dude. It was a good episode.
Oh, it is. It was an outstanding episode.
Yeah.
Hey, brother. Well, listen. Let's tell us about who's coming on. I know we're taking next week off, and then Ash Wednesday we're going to be taking the next 2 weeks off. I'll be traveling to California, helping my daughter and her husband move. She got a big promotion, so I'll be gone for 2 weeks. So Ash Wednesday will not be on until the 23rd. But tell us who we got in 2 weeks, because you're. Tell us about her. Here she is.
Oh, it's San Diego PD retired homicide detective Lori Adams. Lori retired, but she's back with the PD, working cold case investigation, cold case homicides. So we're going to be profiling Baby Doe. It's a baby that was found in Rancho Bernardo in, I believe, I can't remember the year, David. Was it 2004?
You know what? You know what, Benny? I don't remember that case, brother.
Yeah, right around that time, the baby had been dead for a while. It was found in a suitcase, in a travel bag. And obviously, the baby was decomposed. Had been there for a while. So Lori has that case, so she wants to profile that case. It's called Baby Doe. It's out of San Diego.
It's going to be a great episode. And then, Benny, we also have on Ash Wednesday, on April 23rd, like I said, we'll be gone for 2 weeks. But on April 23rd, we have, I spoke to him today for about an hour, close to 2 hours, Mike Vigil. What a great man, intelligent man. Speaks with a lot of passion. He's going to be on, and we're going to be going over, I'm going to actually, on the show, show you clips of the show, The Last Narc, reading parts of the book. And then we're going to be basically talking about it. Is it true, or is it a fact, or is it a myth? We're not going to call anybody a liar. We're not going to disrespect anybody because they're not here to defend themselves. But we are, based on our experience, we're going to basically say, is it true or is it a myth? And we also talking about truthfulness. We got Doug Collier joining us on the 23rd. He's coming back on the show. And then come May, he's going to do a special episode. But brother, with that said, let me go ahead and take this off real quick. Benny, any last words, brother? Any words of encouragement to our listeners?
Well, you know, Alex was talking about FIs. FIs are gold to law enforcement, to investigators, to detectives. You know, that field interview of that person. I remember interviewing a group of guys. It was a cartel car stop at the border by Campo, Tecate, that area. And there was 4 individuals in the car. So the FIs were done in the car. There was no weapons in the car. The car was clean. Brought the dog, cut him loose. One of those FIs was an individual that was a high-power guy that they wanted for a long time by Border Patrol. And I remember getting him contacting me. He says, "Hey, you did an FI on this guy. Did you run him?" I thought, we ran everybody. It was Border Patrol that dropped the ball on that one. He was not in the system as somebody of interest. So we cut him loose. I mean, we had no reason to hang on to him. The guy was legally in the country. So anyway, FIs are gold. They are gold for law enforcement and detectives, as you all know. So keep those FIs coming, man.
Exactly, without a doubt, Ben. You know what? We could talk all day about how FIs literally solved murder cases, serial killer cases, at least in San Diego, nationwide. Those FIs definitely, those are what we call field interviews, where an officer stops somebody, doesn't have probable cause to detain them, but basically gets a consensual contact and is writing the person's information down, and then we put it in our database, and that helps solve a lot of crimes and also identify people. But
and
guys,
remember that, David, remember that FIs come in different forms. It doesn't have to be a person. You can do an FI on a car, on a motorcycle, on a house.
Exactly.
That's intel. Yeah.
It's basically intel, raw intel that later is basically ran by our analysts and also by the patrol officers. Guys, with that said, once again, thank you very much for watching us. We appreciate every one of you that watches us. We appreciate your comments. Be respectful, because we're respectful. And second of all, like I always say, live a purpose-driven life. Live every day like it's your last day on earth. And no matter what you're going through, you know what? Trust the process, but trust the author. And our author is our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. And with that said, Benny, I'm going to put our ending song, Tennessee Whiskey, brother, because you're drinking that Tennessee moonshine. All right. God bless you. Okay. We'll see you next. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
See you.
Used to spend my nights out in ballroom. Liquor was the only love I'd known. But you rescued me from reaching for the bottom and brought me back, being too far gone. You're as smooth as Tennessee whiskey.